The cold was the first thing Derek Martinez felt. It went deep into his bones, making every muscle hurt. His eyes opened slowly, fighting against the bright lights above him. Everything looked blurry at first. Red warning lights flashed in the darkness around him. The pod he was lying in made strange noises. It hissed and clicked as it opened. Derek tried to move, but his body felt heavy and stiff. How long had he been asleep? The mission said 6 months. Just 6 months of sleep while the ship traveled to the war zone. He forced his fingers to grab the metal lever beside him. The pod door opened with a loud hiss. Derek fell onto the cold metal floor. His legs would not work right. He grabbed the edge of the pod and pulled himself up. His whole body shook, the room stretched out in front of him. Rows and rows of sleeping pods lined the walls. But they were all dark. All of them were silent and empty. Something was very wrong. Derek walked slowly to the control panel near his pod. Each step hurt. His old uniform hung in a locker nearby. But it looked strange. The cloth was old and falling apart. That was not normal for a 6-month mission. He touched the control panel. It turned on with a weak flicker. Then Derek saw numbers that made his heart stop. The mission time showed 307 years, 4 months and 17 days, 300 years. That was impossible. The sleeping pods were made for months, not centuries. Something terrible must have happened to keep him asleep for so long. Derek pulled on his old uniform even though it felt rough and weak. He walked through the dark hallways of the ship. The Odyssey Dawn was like a tomb now. Walls had broken in some places. Entire sections were sealed off because the hull had holes in it. Emergency force fields glowed weakly, barely keeping the space vacuum out. The bridge was in better shape than the rest. Derek sat in the captain's chair and turned on what was left of the ship's computer. Most of the data was damaged and broken, but he found pieces of information. The ship had been attacked during something called the Final Battle. After taking heavy damage, the ship was left floating in space. The crew went into emergency sleep pods waiting for rescue. But rescue never came. Derek turned on the long-range sensors. What he saw confused him. The star systems that used to be war zones were now full of civilian ships. Trading routes went through places where battles used to happen. The galaxy looked completely different. A beeping sound made him jump. Another ship was coming toward him. Derek reached for the weapons controls but stopped. The Odyssey Dawn had no power for weapons. It barely had power for life support. The other ship called him on the radio. A young woman appeared on the screen. She had dark hair tied back and wore a jumpsuit with strange company logos on it. Unknown vessel, this is Salvage Scout Horizon's Edge. You are drifting in a shipping lane. Please identify yourself. Derek cleared his throat. His voice sounded rough and dry. This is Captain Derek Martinez of the United Earth warship Odyssey Dawn. We have critical damage and need help. The woman looked confused, then shocked. Did you say United Earth warship? Sir, there has not been an active warship like that for almost 300 years. 300 years, Derek repeated. The words tasted bitter in his mouth. Then the war is over. The war ended 287 years ago. Humanity surrendered after the Battle of Terra Nova. She leaned closer to her screen. Are you saying you have been asleep this whole time? Derek nodded. My crew is still in the pods. Most of them look broken. I need medical help for them. The woman's fingers moved fast across her controls. Your ship is failing badly. It is amazing your pod stayed working. Hold on, Captain. I am calling for emergency rescue. This is going to be big news, she paused. My name is Lisa Cooper. I am an engineer and salvage specialist. Thank you, Lisa, but I need to know something. You said humanity surrendered. What were the terms? Lisa's face fell. She looked sad. That is a long story, Captain. Not a happy one. Let me get you safe first. I need to know now. What happened to Earth? Lisa sighed. Earth is fine. Humanity is fine. We just are not what we used to be. After the surrender, the collective authority took control of all our military equipment. We are a protectorate now. We can only live in certain areas. No weapons, no military ships, no expansion beyond our zones. Derek felt anger building in his chest. We surrendered? The United Earth fleet had dozens of big ships. Hundreds of smaller ones. We were holding our own against them. The history records say the fleet was destroyed at Terra Nova. Earth had no choice but to accept the collective's terms. Lisa's expression softened. Look, Captain, I know this is hard to understand. Let me get a proper rescue ship here. You need medical attention. Your crew needs help too. Derek wanted to argue and demand more answers, but he was so tired. 300 years in the sleeping pod had drained him. All right. But Lisa, promised me something. What is that? I need to see the records of the Battle of Terra Nova. All of them. Something does not make sense. Lisa hesitated, then nodded. I will try. But Captain, you should know that asking questions about the war is not allowed. The collective authority does not like people looking into the past. Then they are going to have a problem with me, Derek said quietly. The rescue took 6 hours. A big transport ship arrived with collective authority symbols on it. Derek watched from the bridge as teams in protective suits came aboard the Odyssey Dawn. They carefully removed the sleeping pods one by one. Lisa came aboard to help. She found Derek on the bridge staring at the tactical display. What are you thinking about? She asked. Trying to understand how we lost, Derek said. These shipping routes go right through our strongest defense positions. We had fortresses and battle stations. All of it is just gone. Taken apart as part of the treaty, Lisa explained. The collective said it was needed for lasting peace. Most alien species agreed. Humanity did not have much choice. And humans just accepted this. For 300 years? Lisa leaned against a control panel. Most humans today have never known anything different. The war is ancient history to them. We are taught that the surrender saved billions of lives, that the collective's peace is the only thing keeping the galaxy from tearing itself apart. Do you believe that? Lisa met his eyes. I believe the galaxy is more complicated than the history books say. There are rumors about people who remember things differently, veterans who went underground instead of accepting the treaty, but they are old now if they are still alive. Derek turned back to the display. I need to find them. I need to understand what really happened. That could be dangerous, Lisa warned. The collective authority does not like people questioning their version of history. I did not survive 300 years in a broken pod just to live in a cage, Derek said. Humanity surrendered, but I did not. And until I understand why, I will not accept it. Lisa was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled a small data chip from her pocket. This is everything I could find about Terra Nova. It is not much. I am sure it has been cleaned up. But it is a start. Derek took the chip. Thank you. Why are you helping me? Because my grandfather was a fleet engineer, Lisa said softly. He died at Terra Nova. He always told my mother that humanity had a chance to win. He believed it until the end. She stood up straight. Maybe it is time someone asked why a man who believed we could win ended up dying in a defeat. The medical ship that took Derek away was clean and efficient. They ran tests and asked questions. They treated him like a museum piece. The doctors were amazed he had survived at all. Derek barely listened. His mind was on the data chip Lisa had given him. It was hidden safely in his personal things. They put him in a recovery facility on the outer edge of human space. It was comfortable, but Derek noticed the guards at every exit. They said it was for his protection. But Derek knew a prison when he saw one. On his third night there, Lisa visited. She had pulled strings to get permission to see him. They are keeping you locked up, she said right away. I noticed, Derek replied. Apparently waking up from 3 centuries makes you a security risk. It is worse than that, Lisa said quietly. I have been looking into things. The collective authority has marked you as a potential problem. They are thinking about keeping you here forever. Derek's jaw tightened. On what grounds? You are a symbol of the old military. They worry about what might happen if word spreads that a United Earth Fleet captain is alive and asking questions. Lisa pulled out a small computer. I managed to open some of the files on that chip. Derek, you need to see this. She showed him video from Terra Nova. The battle was brutal. Human ships fought hard against terrible odds. But as Derek watched, something caught his attention. Stop, go back, he said. Lisa rewound the video. Derek pointed at some ships. Those are Atlas-class carriers. They should not have been at Terra Nova. Last I knew, they were at Sigma Draconis, defending the supply lines. The official record says all human forces came together at Terra Nova for a final stand, Lisa said. Then the official record is wrong. Derek's mind raced. If the Atlas carriers were pulled from Sigma Draconis, that would leave the supply lines open. Without supplies, the fleet at Terra Nova would have been fighting at half strength. You think the battle was sabotaged? I think someone made sure we would lose, Derek said grimly. The question is who and why. After Lisa left, Derek lay in bed staring at the ceiling. 300 years ago, The days at the facility all felt the same. Derek went to physical therapy sessions to make his body strong again. He sat through psychological tests where doctors asked him endless questions. He attended classes about the modern galaxy. They tried to teach him how to accept this new world, but Derek was not interested in accepting. He was interested in understanding, and the more he learned, the more wrong everything felt. The collective authority ruled 17 different alien species. They called it harmonious stability. Wars were things of the past. All conflicts were solved through talking and economic pressure. The videos they showed him made it sound perfect, but Derek noticed things. The way certain topics were avoided. The nervous looks from staff when he asked about human military history. The constant watching of everything he did. Lisa visited him 3 more times over the next few weeks. She always came under official reasons, pretending to check on his recovery. But she was really there to share what she had discovered. "I found something important," she whispered during her 3rd visit. She pretended to check his medical readings. The order to move the Atlas carriers came from Admiral Richard Blake. He was the supreme commander of all human forces. Derek frowned. Blake was a good officer, maybe too careful but loyal. Why would he hurt his own forces? "That is the strange part," Lisa said. "He did not just order the Atlas group to Terra Nova. He also moved defensive satellites, pulled soldiers from key bases, and brought almost every human ship to Terra Nova. It is like he was setting up for a terrible defeat on purpose." "Where is Blake now?" "Dead, supposedly killed at Terra Nova." Lisa's voice dropped even lower. "But I found something else. Financial records from before the battle. Blake received huge amounts of money from a source that has been erased from the databases. Someone paid him a fortune right before he made those decisions." Derek felt cold anger in his chest. "Someone bought our surrender. It looks that way. But there is more." Lisa showed him a holographic display, being careful to hide it from the room's cameras. "I found a coded message in the archives. It was hidden in what looked like normal supply orders. It was addressed to someone with the code name Phoenix. The message said the pieces are in place and humanity will fall so the new order can rise." "Phoenix," Derek repeated. "Did you find anything else about them?" "Just pieces." "But Derek, whoever Phoenix is, they are connected to the collective authority's founding. The timeline matches. The collective was officially created 6 months after Terra Nova, with massive support from multiple species." "Let me guess," Derek said bitterly. "They all benefited from humanity's surrender. The collective took control of human technology, our research, our factories. They called it protective custody. They said they were stopping humanity from building weapons again. But really it meant our inventions were shared across the collective while we had limited access." Derek stood and walked to the window. Outside he could see the facility's grounds with high fences around them. "They did not just defeat us. They gutted us, made sure we could never challenge them again." "There is something else you should know," Lisa said. "I have been watching chat channels on less regulated networks. Word is spreading that you are alive. Some people are excited. They see you as a living connection to humanity's military past, but others are scared. They think you will bring trouble." "They are probably right," Derek said. "Lisa, I need to get out of here. I need to find people who remember the truth. People who might have evidence we can use." "I was hoping you would say that." Lisa smiled a little. "Because I already started making plans. There is a transport leaving for the outer colonies in 3 days. I can get you on it. But we have to move fast. What about you? Will they not trace this back to you?" "Probably. But I have been thinking about what my grandfather said, about believing we could win. Maybe it is time his granddaughter did something to honor that belief." Derek gripped her shoulder. "Thank you, Lisa, for everything." "Save the thanks for when we actually escape," she said. "Now here is what we need to do." The plan was risky but simple. Lisa arranged for a maintenance crew to come to the facility for a routine systems upgrade. Derek would hide in their equipment and be taken out. Once outside, a cargo truck would take him to the transport station. The night before the escape, Derek could not sleep. He kept thinking about Blake and the battle and 300 years of lies. How many other humans had questions that were never answered? How many suspected the truth but were too afraid to speak up? A soft knock on his door made him tense. It was past midnight. He moved quietly to the door and pressed his ear against it. Captain Martinez. The voice was male, barely a whisper. "I need to speak with you. It is about Terra Nova." Derek opened the door a crack. An older man stood in the hallway, maybe 70 years old, wearing a maintenance uniform. His eyes were sharp despite his age. "Who are you?" Derek asked. "My name is Paul Grant. I was a communications officer at Terra Nova. I survived." The old man's hands shook a little. "When I heard you had been found, I had to see you. Had to tell you what really happened." Derek pulled him into the room. "You were there? At the battle?" Paul nodded. "I was on the Valiant, a destroyer in the defensive screen. We all knew something was wrong before the battle even started. The positioning was terrible. Our supply lines were too long. We were sitting targets for the collective's attack. Did you know about Blake's orders? Not then. But I figured it out later." Paul's voice was bitter. "I tried to tell people. Tried to make them understand that we were betrayed. But by then the surrender was complete. Anyone who questioned it was called a troublemaker or worse. So you stayed quiet." "I survived," Paul said, meeting Derek's eyes. "And I waited. I knew someday the truth would come out. When I heard about you, I knew this was the moment." He pulled out a small storage device. "This has recordings from the Valiant's bridge during the battle. It is not much, but it shows our officers questioning the tactical situation, talking about how wrong everything felt." Derek took the device. "This is evidence. Real evidence. It is a start," Paul agreed. "But Captain, you need to understand what you are up against. The collective authority has spent 3 centuries building their version of history. They have convinced most of the galaxy that their way is the only way. Challenging that will not just be dangerous. It could start another war. Maybe that is what needs to happen," Derek said quietly. "Not a war of weapons, but a war of truth," Paul smiled sadly. "I am too old to fight anymore, Captain. But I can help in other ways. There are others like me scattered across human space. Veterans who remember, who never accepted the surrender. If you are planning what I think you are planning, you will need allies." "I am planning to expose the truth," Derek said. "To show the galaxy that humanity's surrender was built on betrayal and lies." "Then you will need more than just evidence," Paul said. "You will need a voice that people will listen to. And Captain, you need to know that some of your crew from the Odyssey Dawn are still alive." Derek's breath caught. What Lisa said, most of the pods were broken. Most were. But 3 survived. They are recovering at different facilities across the sector. The collective authority has been keeping it quiet. But the information leaked through veteran networks. Paul showed him a display. "Commander Alex Briggs, your executive officer. Lieutenant Sophie Kane, your tactical officer. And Chief Engineer Marcus Webb. All 3 are alive and recovering." Derek felt something he had not felt since waking up. Hope. His crew. His people. They had survived. Where are they? Scattered. Briggs is on New Terra, the main human colony world. Kane is at a facility on Kepler Station. Webb is closest, at a medical center about 50 light-years from here. Paul's expression grew serious. "But Captain, they are being watched just like you. The collective knows what a united crew from the old fleet could mean. Then we need to reach them before the collective decides we are too much of a threat." Derek's mind was already working. "Paul, can you get messages to them? Let them know I am alive and planning to reunite the crew?" "I can try. The veteran network is still active even if we have to be careful." Paul stood. "But you need to get out of here first. I heard rumors that you are planning something tomorrow." Derek nodded. "Lisa Cooper is helping me escape." "Do you know her?" "I know of her. Good kid. Her grandfather served under me." Paul moved toward the door. "I will do what I can to help, Captain. But be careful. The collective has eyes everywhere. And there are humans who benefit from the current system. Not everyone will be happy to see you stirring things up." After Paul left, Derek sat with the storage device, turning it over in his hands. Evidence, allies, a crew. The pieces were coming together. The next day moved slowly. Derek went through his usual routine, giving no sign that anything was different. Lisa arrived with the maintenance crew in the afternoon exactly as planned. The escape went smoothly at first. Derek hid in a large equipment box. The crew carried him out with their gear. The facility guards barely looked at them. They were too used to routine maintenance to suspect anything. But as they loaded the box onto the cargo truck, alarms began to sound. Derek heard shouts and running feet. "Go, go!" Lisa's voice, urgent and scared. The truck's engines roared. Derek felt the box shift as the transport dropped out of faster-than-light travel 3 days later. They approached Meridian Station in the Kepler system. Derek had spent the journey studying everything Paul Grant had given him. He looked at the evidence of Admiral Blake's betrayal over and over. The more he learned, the angrier he became. Blake had not just moved forces around. He had weakened every human defense position while making it look like smart strategy. The man had been careful and completely corrupt. "We are being called by station control," the pilot said. His name was Nick Harper, a freelance hauler who agreed to help Lisa for good pay and the promise of adventure. "They want to know who we are and why we are here." "Tell them we are here for medical consultation," Lisa said. She had made false papers for Derek that said he was a civilian researcher. "I am registered as a medical equipment supplier. That should get us permission to land." The station let them through after a quick check. Meridian Station was smaller than Derek expected. It was a commercial hub for the outer colonies. It had a rough frontier feel, very different from the clean controlled places in the core systems. "Sophie Kane is here?" Derek asked as they left the ship. "At the station's medical center," Lisa confirmed. "She has been awake for about a week. My contacts say she is recovering well but asking lots of questions. The collective is keeping watch on her, so we need to break her out too." "Not necessarily." Lisa led him through the crowded corridors. "The security here is lighter than at your facility. The collective's resources are stretched thin. They probably think Kane is not going anywhere without a ship. They found the medical center easily. It was a modest facility, clearly made for workers who got hurt in accidents rather than for long-term care." Lisa walked up to the reception desk with confidence. "We are here to visit Lieutenant Sophie Kane," she said, showing her papers. "Medical equipment follow-up." The receptionist checked her computer and frowned. "I do not have any scheduled visits for Kane today." "It is a priority evaluation," Lisa said smoothly. "We are checking her for special recovery equipment." It was cleared through the Collective Authority's medical division. The official sounding words did the trick. The receptionist shrugged and gave them visitor passes. "Room 17. Do not tire her out. She is still recovering." Room 17 was at the end of a quiet hall. Derek's heart pounded as Lisa knocked on the door. A voice called out, suspicious and sharp. "Who is it?" Derek answered. "Lieutenant, it is Captain Martinez. I have come to bring you home." Silence. Then the door opened. A woman in her mid-30s with short blonde hair stood there. Her eyes showed she had seen too much combat. Sophie Kane stared at Derek like she was seeing a ghost. "Captain?" Her voice cracked. "They told me you were dead, that your pod failed." "They told me a lot of things too," Derek said. "Most of them were lies." Sophie pulled him into the room. Her eyes were wet, but her grip was strong. "I knew something was wrong. The moment I woke up and they told me about the surrender, I knew it did not make sense." "It does not," Derek agreed. "Because we were betrayed." "Sophie, this is Lisa Cooper. She has been helping me uncover the truth about Terra Nova." Lisa nodded a greeting. "We do not have much time, Lieutenant. The Collective Authority knows Captain Martinez escaped. It will not be long before they connect him to your location." "Then we need to move fast," Sophie said. She was already pulling on clothes, moving with the speed of a trained officer. "What is the plan, Captain?" "We are gathering the crew," Derek explained. "Alex Briggs is on New Terra and Marcus Webb is at another facility. Once we are together, we are going to expose what really happened at Terra Nova." Sophie grabbed a tablet from beside her bed. "I have been doing my own investigating. The staff here was not very careful about what information I could access. Captain, I found something about the Odyssey Dawn." "What about it?" "The ship was not just damaged and left behind. It was deliberately hidden." Sophie pulled up a document. "After Terra Nova, the Collective Authority sent cleanup crews to record all human military ships. But the Odyssey Dawn was not in any of their reports. Someone went to great effort to make sure it stayed lost." Derek looked at Lisa. "Because they could not risk anyone finding the ship's logs. If they showed we were still working when the surrender was announced, it would raise questions." "Exactly," Sophie said. "And there is more. I found records of other ships that went missing around the same time. Destroyers, cruisers, even some frigates. None of them were counted in the final fleet numbers." "How many?" Lisa asked. "At least 20 ships. Maybe more." Sophie's expression was grim. "Captain, what if we were not the only ones who were hidden away? What if there are other crews out there, still in cryosleep waiting to be found?" The idea was huge. If Sophie was right, there could be hundreds or maybe thousands of military people from the old fleet still frozen, hidden across the galaxy. "We will worry about that later," Derek said. "Right now we need to get you out of here and reach the others." They left the medical center without problems. But Derek noticed more security as they moved through the station. Word was spreading fast. "We need to leave soon," Nick said over their communicators. "Station security just put out an alert for a person of interest matching historical military profiles. They are not naming you yet, but it will not take long. Get the ship ready," Derek ordered. "We will be there in 5 minutes." They were 3 minutes from the docking bay when the station's security finally made the connection. Alarms blared and armed guards appeared at corridor intersections. "Attention," a voice boomed over the speakers. "This is station security. Captain Derek Martinez and Lieutenant Sophie Kane are wanted for questioning by the collective authority. All citizens must stay in place." "So much for being sneaky," Sophie muttered. She grabbed Derek's arm. "This way. There is a maintenance passage that goes to the docking levels." She led them through a hidden door into cramped utility corridors that ran through the station. They moved quickly. Sophie navigated from memory of the station layout she had studied during her recovery. Behind them, Derek could hear security forces entering the maintenance areas. "They were being hunted. There." Lisa pointed ahead. A ladder led up to a hatch marked docking bay access for authorized people only. They climbed quickly. Sophie went first, using her security codes from when she had been checked into the facility. The code still worked and the hatch opened into the docking bay. Nick had the transport ready with engines already warming up. "About time. They are trying to lock down the bay doors." Everyone scrambled aboard. Nick did not wait for proper departure clearance. He fired the engines and shot the transport out of the dock just as the bay doors began to close. They scraped through with only meters to spare. Station security ships launched to chase them, but Nick was already pushing the transport toward the system's jump point. "Hang on," he called back. "This is going to be rough." The transport shook as weapons fire hit its shields. Nick threw the ship into wild moves, trading smooth flying for survival. They were not going to make it to the jump point before the security forces caught up. Sophie moved to the transport's small weapons panel. "I can give us some breathing room. Nick, when I say cut thrust and roll left, you sure about this? Trust me, I have done this before." Sophie's fingers moved across the controls. "Now!" Nick cut the engines and rolled the ship. The chasing security ships flew past, confused by the sudden move. Sophie fired the transport's light defensive lasers. She was not trying to destroy the ships but targeting their sensors. "Go," she shouted. Nick pushed the engines back to full power. The transport jumped forward and this time they had enough lead. The jump point appeared on their screens. Nick engaged the faster-than-light drive. The stars stretched and they were away. Safe, at least for now. Derek found Sophie in the transport's small common area an hour later. She was studying the same tablet from the medical center, looking thoughtful. "You did good back there," Derek said. "Tactical officer, remember?" Sophie smiled a little. "Those were the skills I was trained for. I just never thought I would be using them to run from humans working for aliens. None of us thought we would wake up to this future." Derek sat across from her. "Sophie, do you really think there are more ships out there?" "More crews, I do. The numbers do not add up any other way. The collective authority's official records claim they counted every human military ship. But if the Odyssey Dawn was deliberately hidden, why would it be the only one?" She looked up at him. "Captain, what if someone is keeping those crews frozen on purpose? What if Phoenix wants them as insurance or leverage, or just to make sure they never wake up to challenge the official story?" "Then we need to find them," Derek said. "But first we need Alex and Marcus. We need a crew we can trust before we go looking for others." Lisa joined them, carrying cups of station coffee that tasted barely better than military rations. "I have been thinking about our next move. New Terra is going to be heavily watched. Alex Briggs is there, but so is the Collective Authority's regional headquarters. We will need a plan," Derek agreed. "A good one. I might be able to help with that," Sophie said. "One of the things I found in my research was information about an underground network on New Terra. People who are not happy with the Collective's rule. Who remember? New Terra hung in space like a blue-green jewel. It was the largest human colony world with nearly 2 billion people living on it. Derek watched it through the window as their transport got closer. He remembered when this world had been nothing but survey data and ambitious plans. Now it was the heart of human civilization. A civilization that lived under the control of the collective authority, never realizing it had been betrayed into giving up. "We are being called by planetary control," Nick announced. Standard approach clearance and cargo check. Lisa had prepared for this. Their transport was now registered as a commercial hauler, carrying medical supplies and farming equipment. Their identities had been cleaned and replaced with false papers that should hold up to basic inspection, should being the important word. Cleared for approach to Port Darwin, Nick reported after a few tense minutes. We are landing in 2 hours. Sophie joined Derek at the window. You know this is a trap, right? The collective authority has to know we would come here for Briggs. I know, Derek said, but we do not have a choice. Alex is our executive officer. I am not leaving him behind. I am not saying we should. I am just saying we need to be ready for whatever they throw at us. Derek nodded. Sophie was right to be careful. The escape from Meridian Station had been too easy in some ways. The collective authority had resources across the entire galaxy. If they wanted to stop Derek's small group, they could have tried much harder unless they wanted Derek to gather his crew. Unless this was all part of someone's larger plan, the thought made Derek's skin crawl. Phoenix, whoever they were, had organized humanity's defeat with cold planning. What if they were still pulling strings? Port Darwin was a huge facility that served as New Terra's main spaceport. It was busy with activity. Ships arrived and left. Cargo was loaded and unloaded. Derek's group blended in with the crowds, just more travelers among thousands. Lisa had arranged for them to meet a contact from the Resistance Network at a bar in the port's commercial area. The place was called the Starlight Lounge, a dirty establishment that served spacers and dock workers. Their contact was a man in his 50s named Vincent Cole. He wore the worn look of someone who had spent his life in space. His eyes held the wariness of someone who had learned not to trust easily. You are Martinez, Vincent said without introduction, the captain from the old fleet. Word has spread fast about you. What kind of word? Derek asked. Depends who you ask. Some people think you are a hero come to shake things up. Others think you are trouble that will get a lot of folks killed. Vincent took a drink. I am reserving judgment. But Lisa here vouched for you and I respect her family, so I am willing to listen. We need to reach Commander Alex Briggs, Derek said. He is being held at the Collective Authority's regional facility. Vincent let out a low whistle. You do not aim small, do you? That facility is locked down tight. They have security systems that make a military base look like a playground. Can it be done? Maybe. If you are willing to take risks and if you have something to offer the people who would be helping you. Vincent leaned forward. See, Captain, there are a lot of folks on New Terra who are not happy with how things are. We remember stories from our grandparents about when humanity stood on its own feet. We see how the collective treats us like children who need constant watching. But we are not organized. We are not armed. And we are scared. What would it take to change that? Sophie asked. Proof, Vincent said simply. Proof that we were betrayed. Proof that the collective's peace is built on lies. Give us that and you will have more help than you know what to do with. Derek looked at Lisa and Sophie. This was the moment they had been building toward. He pulled out a portable display and loaded the evidence they had gathered. Admiral Blake's suspicious orders. The financial transfers. The coded messages. Paul Grant's testimony. Vincent watched in silence, his expression growing darker. When it finished, he sat back and was quiet for a long moment. If this is real, he started. It is real, Derek said. We have more evidence. Communications logs, tactical studies, and testimony from survivors. Admiral Blake sold us out. Someone called Phoenix organized the whole thing to make sure humanity would lose. Vincent's hands clenched into fists. My father died at Terra Nova. He was on the destroyer Vigilant, part of the fleet that was supposedly wiped out in the final attack. You are telling me he died because someone wanted humanity to surrender? Yes, Derek said quietly. I am sorry. Vincent stood suddenly and walked to the bar. He came back with a bottle and 4 glasses. Then I am in, and I can get you others. But Captain, you need to understand what you are starting here. If we do this, if we expose the truth, the collective authority is not going to just accept it. They have built an entire order on this lie. Good, Sophie said. Let them try to defend it. Over the next 2 days, Vincent gathered his network. They met in secret places across Port Darwin. Storage facilities, private homes, abandoned warehouses. Derek repeated his presentation a dozen times, showing the evidence to people who had lived their entire lives believing humanity's surrender had been necessary. The reactions ranged from shock to rage to denial. But slowly, surely they began to believe. And as they believed, they became willing to act. "We have got 40 people ready to help," Vincent reported on the third day. "Not fighters, mind you. Dock workers, mechanics, security people, hackers. But they are committed. They want to help get Briggs out and stick it to the collective." 40 people against a secure facility, Sophie thought out loud. It is not great odds, but I have worked with worse. "The facility has a weakness," Vincent said. "Their security is designed to keep people from breaking in. They are not as prepared for someone breaking out. Briggs is technically a patient, not a prisoner. They have got guards, but not an army." Lisa had been working on her own angle. "I hacked into the facility's network. Briggs is in a restricted wing, but I can create a distraction. If we trigger the fire systems in the main building, it will cause chaos and draw security away from the restricted areas. Then we go in during the confusion and get Briggs out," Derek said. "It could work." "There is one more thing," Vincent said. "The collective authority knows you are here. They have been running face scans at every public area in the port. So far, your false IDs have held up, but they are closing in. We need to move fast." They planned the operation for the following night. Vincent's network would provide transportation and distractions throughout the port. Lisa would handle the electronic warfare. Sophie would lead the insertion team. And Derek would be there to bring his executive officer home. The facility was located on the edge of Port Darwin. It was a modern building of glass and steel that looked more like a corporate office than a detention center. Derek watched it through binoculars from a building across the street, noting guard positions and patrol patterns. 5 guards at the main entrance, Sophie reported. 2 roving patrols on the grounds. Security cameras on every corner. And that is just what we can see from here. "Lisa, how long will the distraction last?" Derek asked. 10 minutes, maybe 15 if we are lucky. The facility's automated systems will override the false alarm after that. Then we need to be in and out in 10 minutes. Derek turned to his team. 7 volunteers from Vincent's network plus Sophie and himself. They were armed with stunners, non-lethal weapons that would put guards to sleep without killing them. Derek had made it clear, no unnecessary harm. These guards were humans just doing their jobs. They were not the enemy. "Everyone ready?" Sophie asked, nods all around. Derek felt the familiar rush before combat. 300 years and some things never changed. "Then let us go bring our executive officer home." Lisa triggered the distraction at exactly 11 at night. Fire alarms screamed throughout the facility. Suppression systems activated, flooding hallways with fire-retardant foam. Chaos erupted as staff and patients evacuated. Derek's team moved in through a side entrance that Vincent's people had unlocked from the inside. They navigated through the confusion. Sophie led them through corridors filled with foam and panicked people. The restricted wing was sealed off from the main building, accessible only through a security checkpoint. 2 guards stood watch, but they were distracted by the alarms and the commotion. Sophie dropped them both with precise stun shots. The team moved through, and Derek input the access codes Lisa had provided. The door opened with a hiss. They found Alex Briggs in a room at the end of the hall, sitting calmly in a chair as if he had been expecting them. He was in his early 40s with dark hair starting to go gray at the sides. His face showed years of command. "Captain Martinez," Alex said, standing. "I was wondering when you would show up." "Good to see you too, Alex," Derek said. "We are getting you out of here." "About time." Alex grabbed a jacket from his chair. "I have been going crazy in this place. They will not tell me anything except that I am being evaluated for fitting back into modern society. As if I need evaluation." "We can catch up later," Sophie said. "Right now we need to move." They went back through the facility. The fire systems were already shutting down and security was starting to regroup. Derek heard shouts behind them as guards realized something was wrong. "They are onto us," Vincent said through their communicators. "You need to get out." The Tau Ceti system had once been a major hub for human expansion. A stepping stone to the wider galaxy, now it was a quiet backwater, known only for its commercial stations and medical facilities, perfect for keeping someone like Marcus Webb hidden away from prying eyes. But nothing stayed hidden forever, especially when the entire galaxy was looking. "We have got a problem," Nick announced as they got close to the system. "Collective authority checkpoints at the jump points. They are inspecting every ship that enters or leaves." Derek studied the display. 3 checkpoints, each backed by armed patrol craft. Not military warships, but enough firepower to stop a civilian transport. "Can we slip past them?" he asked. "Not likely," Nick said. "They are scanning for specific biosignatures. If they are looking for you specifically, they will find you. Then we need a different approach, Sophie said. She had been studying the system's layout. There is a mining operation on the fourth planet. Independent contractors not directly controlled by the collective. If we can land there, we might be able to reach Marcus without going through the checkpoints. Mining operations have their own security, Alex pointed out. They might not appreciate us showing up without warning. Then we make them an offer they cannot refuse, Lisa said. I have been watching the colonial networks. These miners are barely breaking even. The collective's trade restrictions make it hard for independent operators to compete. If we can offer them something valuable, is like what? Derek asked. Information, technology, access to markets they have been shut out of. Lisa pulled up financial data. Captain, we are sitting on 300 years of military tech that the collective has kept locked away. If we can promise these miners access to even a fraction of that, they will be motivated to help us. It was risky, but most of their options were these days. Derek approved the plan and Nick changed their course toward the mining colony. The colony was called New Perth. It was a collection of prefabricated buildings clustered around massive open pit mines. The planet was rich in heavy metals, but the work was hard and dangerous. The miners who lived here were tough, independent, and deeply suspicious of anyone. From the core systems, the colony's administrator was a woman named Helen Price. She was a former engineer who had come to Tau Ceti to escape the corporate politics of the inner worlds. She met Derek's group with a plasma rifle over her shoulder and a skeptical look on her face. You are the ones the collective is hunting, she said without introduction. Why should I not turn you in for the reward? Because the reward is paid in collective credits, which are worth less every year thanks to their trade policies, Derek said. And because we can offer you something better. I am listening. Derek showed her the data they had recovered from the Odyssey Dawn. Shield, generator designs that were more efficient than anything currently available, propulsion systems that could cut travel time in half, mineral processing techniques that would increase mining yields by 40%. Helen's skepticism slowly changed to interest. This technology has been suppressed? By the collective authority, Derek confirmed. They took control of all human military research after the surrender. Most of it has been locked away ever since, used only by collective-approved corporations. While the rest of us scrape by with outdated equipment, Helen said bitterly. She studied the data for several minutes. What do you want in return? Help us reach the medical facility where our crew member is being held. And keep quiet about us being here. That is it? That is it. We are not here to cause trouble for you. We just want our man back. Helen thought about this, then nodded. All right. But if this brings heat down on my colony, I'm going to be very unhappy, and you do not want to see me unhappy. They reached the medical facility the next day, traveling in one of the mining colony's transport vehicles. The facility was modest compared to the one on New Terra, more of a clinic than a detention center. Marcus Webb was being held in a recovery room, but he was not alone. 2 collective authority guards stood watch outside his door. Derek could see more security people in the facility's lobby. They are expecting us, Sophie observed. This is a trap. Probably, Derek agreed. But we are not leaving without Marcus. They had brought Helen and several of her miners as backup. The miners were armed and motivated, angry about years of collective exploitation and eager to strike back. We do this quick and clean, Derek said. In and out before they can bring help. Helen, your people cover the exits. Sophie, Alex, you are with me. They moved in during the facility's shift change, a moment of maximum confusion. Helen's miners created a distraction in the lobby, claiming there had been an accident at the colony and they needed immediate medical attention. While the facility's staff rushed to respond, Derek's team slipped past the distracted guards and made their way to Marcus's room. The 2 guards outside barely had time to react before Sophie stunned them both. Marcus Webb was a bear of a man, broad-shouldered and strong despite weeks of recovery. His face lit up when he saw Derek. Captain, about time you showed up. Good to see you too, Marcus, Derek said. Can you walk? Can I walk? Sir, I can run if we need to. Marcus grabbed his clothes, though I would appreciate knowing what we are running from. Long story. I will explain on the ship. They made it back to the lobby before the alarm was raised. The facility's guards, realizing what was happening, moved to cut off their escape. But Helen's miners were ready, forming a wall between Derek's team and the security forces. Go, Helen shouted. We will hold them. They ran for the transport. Behind them, Derek heard the crack of weapons fire, though the miners were using stunners rather than lethal force. The transport's engines roared to life and Nick pulled away from the facility at maximum speed. Everyone aboard? Nick called back. We are good, Alex confirmed. Let us get out of here. They made it back to New Perth and moved to their own ship. Helen had kept her word, providing supplies and clearing them for immediate departure. I will not forget this, Derek told her as they prepared to leave. Just make sure that technology gets to people who need it, Helen said. And Captain, give the collective hell for me. They jumped out of the Tau Ceti system minutes ahead of collective patrol vessels. Marcus spent the journey catching up on everything he had missed. His expression grew darker as Derek explained about the betrayal, the conspiracy, and the price humanity had paid. Blake sold us out, Marcus said finally. I never would have believed it. None of us would have, Alex said. But the evidence does not lie. So what is the plan? Marcus asked. We have got the crew back together. How do we expose this phoenix and bring down the collective's house of cards? We need more than just evidence, Derek said. We need leverage, something that will force the collective authority to listen. Lisa had been working on her computer throughout the conversation. Now she looked up with excitement in her eyes. I think I found something. Remember how Sophie said there might be other ships hidden away, other crews still in cryosleep? You found them? Sophie asked. Better. I found where they are supposed to be. Lisa brought up a star map. The collective authority has secret storage facilities scattered across the outer rim. Officially, they are listed as military surplus depots, but the energy signatures do not match. These facilities are using power consistent with maintaining cryopods. They are keeping our people frozen, Derek said. Why? Insurance, Alex suggested. If they ever need leverage against humanity. What better than frozen soldiers from the old fleet? Or maybe they are just paranoid about what might happen if we all woke up at once. Either way, those crews deserve to wake up, Marcus said. They deserve to know the truth. Derek studied the map. There were 7 facilities marked, spread across systems that the collective controlled. Reaching even one would be dangerous. Reaching all 7 would be nearly impossible. But impossible was what humanity did best. We are going after them, Derek decided. All of them. We wake up every crew we can find and we build an army. Not an army of weapons, but an army of truth. Hundreds of witnesses who can testify about what really happened. The collective will try to stop us, Sophie warned. Let them try, Derek said. We are done hiding. We are done running. It is time to take the fight to them. Over the next weeks, Derek's small crew became something more. They struck at the first facility in the Kepler system, overwhelming the light security and awakening 60 crew members from the destroyer Defiant. Then they hit a facility in the Rigel system, freeing 80 more from the cruiser Valiant. Each success brought more people to their cause. Veterans who had never accepted the surrender. Colonists tired of collective control. Even some aliens who had begun to question the official history. The network grew. Ships joined their small fleet, donated or stolen from collective facilities. Resources appeared from unexpected sources. And all the while, the evidence of Blake's betrayal and Phoenix's conspiracy spread across the galaxy. The collective authority tried to suppress it. They censored news reports, blocked transmissions, and arrested anyone caught spreading what they called seditious materials. But information wanted to be free, and humanity had always been good at finding ways around censorship. The tipping point came at a facility in the Arcturus system. Derek's fleet, now 20 ships strong, and the final confrontation came at New Terra, humanity's capital world. The collective authority gathered its remaining loyal forces there, determined to crush the rebellion before it spread further. They could not let Derek Martinez and his message of truth destroy everything they had built. Derek's fleet arrived to find a massive armada waiting. Every remaining collective military vessel, backed by automated defense systems and the threat of firing on the planet below. It was meant to be the end of the rebellion. Captain, we are outnumbered 5-1, Sophie reported from her tactical station. I know, Derek said, but we are not here to fight a battle. We are here to win a war. He opened a channel, broadcasting to every ship, every station, and every settlement in the system. His face appeared on millions of screens across New Terra and beyond. My name is Captain Derek Martinez of the United Earth Fleet. 300 years ago, I went into cryo-sleep believing I was fighting to save humanity. I woke up to discover that we had been betrayed, that our surrender was organized by conspirators who wanted to reshape the galaxy according to their vision. On screens across the system, Derek's face appeared. Behind him stood his crew. Behind them stood hundreds of awakened veterans, all wearing their old uniforms with pride. "We have evidence," Derek continued. "Proof that Admiral Blake sold out the human fleet. Proof that someone codenamed Phoenix manipulated the final battle to ensure our defeat. Proof that the peace you have all lived under for 3 centuries was built on blood and lies." He transmitted more data, the final pieces of evidence they had gathered. Financial records showing how Blake's family had lived in luxury after his supposed death. Communications showing collective leadership discussing the plan to control humanity. Testimony from veterans who had seen the betrayal firsthand. "You can fight us," Derek said. "You can kill us, but you cannot kill the truth. It is out there now, spreading across the galaxy. Every species that is part of the collective authority needs to ask themselves this question. If they lied about us, what else have they lied about?" The collective fleet did not move. On New Terra below, crowds gathered in the streets, watching the confrontation unfold on giant screens. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched and waited. The standoff lasted 3 hours. 3 hours of silence, of tension, of humanity holding its breath. Derek stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the enemy fleet and wondering if this was how it would end. Then a ship broke from the collective formation. Then another. And another. Not attacking but withdrawing. Captains and crews unwilling to fight for an organization that had lost all moral authority. The collective authority's fleet dissolved. Some vessels retreated to distant systems. Others switched sides, joining Derek's growing armada. And New Terra below erupted in celebrations as people realized they were free. Derek and his crew landed on New Terra, to a hero's welcome. The planetary government, freed from collective control, immediately called for open investigations into the events of Terra Nova and the centuries of suppression that followed. The collective authority did not collapse overnight. It would take years to sort everything out, but its power was broken. Species began declaring independence, forming new alliances based on mutual respect rather than enforced compliance. And humanity, for the first time in 300 years, stood on equal footing with the galaxy's other civilizations. Derek Martinez stood on a balcony overlooking New Terra's capital city, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. His crew stood with him. Alex, Sophie, Marcus, Lisa, and all the others they had awakened and recruited along the way. "We did it," Sophie said quietly. "We actually did it. We exposed the truth," Derek corrected. "But the real work is just beginning. Rebuilding, reforming, making sure something like this never happens again." "Think you are up for it, Captain?" Alex asked with a slight smile. Derek smiled back. "I do not know. 300 years ago, I was just a fleet officer. Now I am supposed to help build a new future for humanity?" "You are the man who woke up and refused to accept lies," Lisa said. "If that is not leadership, I do not know what is." Marcus clapped Derek on the shoulder. "Besides, you have got us. The crew sticks together, right?" "Right," Derek agreed. The weeks that followed were chaotic but hopeful. The investigation into Terra Nova revealed the full extent of the conspiracy. Admiral Blake had indeed been paid massive sums by a shadow organization. The code-named Phoenix turned out to be a group of power-hungry individuals from multiple species who had seen the war as an opportunity to reshape galactic politics. Most of them were long dead, but their legacy lived on in the collective authority they had created. Now that legacy was being dismantled piece by piece. Derek spent his days testifying before committees, giving interviews to news organizations, and helping coordinate the awakening of more frozen crew members. Each day brought new revelations and new challenges, but there were victories too. Helen Price and her mining colony received the technology Derek had promised, and within months New Perth became one of the most prosperous independent colonies in the sector. Vincent Cole and his resistance network on New Terra formed the core of a new human defense force, one built on transparency and accountability. Paul Grant, the old communications officer who had first approached Derek with evidence, became a key witness in the investigations. His testimony helped convict several high-ranking collective officials who had known about the conspiracy. And across human space, people began to remember what they had lost. Not just military power, but pride, dignity, and the right to determine their own future. One evening, 3 months after the confrontation at New Terra, Derek received an unexpected visitor. A delegation from the Collective Authority, or what remained of it. They were led by a dignified alien diplomat named Corvin, one of the few officials who had not been implicated in the conspiracy. "Captain Martinez," Corvin said, his voice carrying genuine regret, "I have come to offer an apology on behalf of those who were deceived and those who deceived others. What was done to humanity was wrong. What was done to all of us, all the species who believed in the collective's mission of peace, was a betrayal of everything we claimed to stand for." Derek studied the alien carefully. "An apology is a start, but words are cheap. What actions will follow those words? We are proposing a new galactic council," Corvin explained. "One where every species has equal representation and equal voice. No more protectorates. No more restricted zones. True partnership based on mutual respect." "And what makes you think it will be different this time?" Derek asked. "Because you and people like you will be watching," Corvin said simply. "Because the truth is out there now and it cannot be hidden again. Because we have learned, painfully, that peace built on lies is no peace at all." Derek considered this. It was not perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was a chance to build something better. "I will take your proposal to the human government," Derek said. "But understand this. Humanity will never again allow itself to be controlled or manipulated. We will stand as equals or we will stand alone." "I would expect nothing less," Corvin said. After the delegation left, Derek returned to the balcony where his crew was waiting. He told them about the proposal. "What do you think, Captain?" Alex asked. "Can we trust them?" "I think we verify everything and trust nothing at first," Derek said. "But we also cannot let fear of betrayal prevent us from building something new. The old ways led to war. Phoenix's way led to oppression. We need to find a third path. A path based on truth," Lisa said. "And accountability," Sophie added. "And the willingness to punch back if someone tries to push us around again," Marcus said with a grin. Derek laughed. It felt good to laugh. 300 years of sleep, weeks of desperate struggle, and now finally a moment to breathe and think about the future, instead of just surviving the present. Over the following months, the new Galactic Council took shape. It was messy and complicated, full of arguments and compromises. But it was also open and honest in ways the old collective authority had never been. Humanity took its place at the table, represented by a government that had been reformed from the ground up. Derek declined offers to enter politics, preferring to serve in an advisory role. He had been a soldier, not a politician, but he did accept one position: commander of the new unified human fleet. Not a war fleet, but a defensive force designed to protect human interests and project strength. A reminder that humanity would never again be weak or vulnerable. Sophie became his tactical officer once more. Alex served as executive officer. Marcus ran the engineering corps. And Lisa, who had started all this by finding Derek's ship and helping him escape, became the fleet's chief intelligence officer. The Odyssey Dawn itself was recovered and restored, turned into a museum ship that told the story of what had really happened at Terra Nova. Millions of people visited each year, learning about the betrayal and the courage of those who had exposed it. 1 year after waking up, Derek stood on the bridge of a new ship, the Enterprise, watching as a fleet of human vessels jumped into formation around them. They were heading out to explore new systems, to establish new colonies, to push the boundaries of human space once more. "Ready to see what is out there, Captain?" Sophie asked from her station. Derek looked around at his crew.